Preparation to the streaming. We are ready, please, ladies. Preparation to the stream.
Ready?
You are ready. You can go, Nancy.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you and everyone here for attending the Impact is for Everyone Global Conference. Today is day 3 for the Americas, and we're happy to see you here to listen to our speakers early on the Pacific time at 7 a.m. and 10 o'clock Eastern. So thank you for taking time out of your busy day to hear our wonderful speakers. They're just going to be amazing, and they're going to tell you about how they are an impact in their community and globally. So TIWN, which is the Impactful Women's Network, is a global initiative, and it's designed to amplify the impact of all individuals, irrespective of your gender, your race, nationality, and striving to make a difference through personal accountability, because you have to take ownership in order to make a difference, to make an impact in your life. And TIWN's vision is to create an inclusive, empowering, and supportive community that bridges the borders, the cultures, and the industries. Our platform is not just inclusive for women, but we acknowledge the importance of having safe spaces and opportunities for women and men to learn, to participate, to be engaged, and to make an impact. My name is Nancy Chin Wagner. I am the National Chairperson of the U.S. Council for the Spirit of the Game and the Continental Chairperson of Onboarding in the Americas. We will be building the Impactful Women's Network in the Americas. So that's why it was important for us to network this out to everybody here in the Americas to build. The moderators that we have also on the U.S. Council, and that's Jackie Zockley and Derek Jackson. And I'm proud to have them on the team. We also have Manuela, who's just starting, coming on after this week to be on the team, as well in a team format, everyone in Spirit of the Game organization, because it takes a team to get this organization to help you, everyone that's here, to make a difference in the world. So now I will pass the baton to Jackie for her first segment. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Nancy. This is really great. Let's see, let's do it this way. I am so delighted that this group is together. You have no clue. I would say this is the culmination of my life, but I know I want to live a lot longer than this. And the point is that when I can see people all over the globe, now we're focusing mostly on the Americas, obviously, but we do have a few from different countries. And good, Dr. Greg's back. And so what the thing is, when you can see the brilliance, the absolute brilliance of these people, and when you can put them in the same room, gosh, there is just, at this point, I don't see anything more wonderful in my life is to be able to actually bring and ignite these brilliances. Part of what I do in the morning is to be able to, I have an intentional card that I look at each day, and it's different. And I'm going to say the intention today, which you all have heard many, many times, but I want you to really think about it today. People don't care. You know the statement, don't you? They don't care how much you know. Think about that. And we're going to be telling titles and of the yin yang of people that have a background that is amazing. They don't care until they know how much you care. So today I want our focus to be, we know that you care, but I want to realize that with this screen, because every single person on this screen has the ability and potential to light the spark of change. We know the problems. Many of you, well, I could say probably all of you know them in a lot more deep and depth than I could ever imagine. And we all could just wallow in the pain. Spirit of the game is about action and getting it done. Spirit of the game is I can't make you accountable. However, I can make you want to be accountable so that we actually can do that together as a team. So that's what I'm talking about, is the team that I would love and am seeing right here on my screen. It's all I can do not to shed a few tears because it's so miraculous to me. And so as we go through the panel, and I'm not going to glorify who you are. I can't. I don't have enough time. However, the short of it at this point, and it's very appropriate, is to start with our environment. Our environment is the core of absolutely all of it. Unless we live and take care of there is where we live, we won't be around. It's that simple. And as I say, the people in the environment could carry that on for another 3 hours. So we're going to, it's the most important today is to establish the grassroots types of things that can be projects, that can be action, that can lead to what that vision is that each of you has today. So what I want to do, and I am so delighted that 90% of the screen, well, maybe a little less than 90% of the screen is on. That means I know you're here. If you can be on, so you make me feel better. Anyhow, I would like you to not wallow so much in the problems, although awareness is the start. It's the excitement of awareness. I want you to consider what you can do or what you are doing so that we can each know what you're doing to make that big difference, that positive difference. You can make a negative difference, the positive difference. So as we go through our speakers today, they are illustrious. They have backgrounds some of you can't even conceive of, some of which I don't even know the businesses or the nonprofits. However, it's what they're saying today. It's what they're encouraging. It's what they are living. So our speakers for today who are here, Honorable Yvonne Gamble is the first one. And Yvonne and I have worked intimately, actually, if you were really to think about it, as much as we have worked on the projects that we're doing. And her background is totally amazing. She's a futurist is what she really is. And she has had 40 years in the business experience, both the financial as well as the humanitarian. And it all has pattern around humanitarian if we were to look at it. She is the founder of and CEO of Sanpete Financial Group. She is also part of Mobamed. I'm sure I probably mentioned it wrong. Executive Director of Women Leading Change Now. She works with NASA intimately in a variety of ways in funding and advising. And her goal is to combine the efforts of all of these groups and teams to address the world issues and the needs. So what we're going to do is I think I can just introduce each one as we go. No, I'm going to do them all. Dr. Geetha Plackle is the Director of World Alliance for Planetary Health. She is a climate and reality expert. She is a marine scientist from Kerala, India, and Director for Operations for India World Alliance for Planetary Health, Environmental Director at Ocean Integrity, and the Ambassador at Island Innovation. Her main focus is passionate about in research on ocean and biodiversity. So you can see how this is all going to start to play together. So pay attention as we're talking. Each of these people, as I say, have bios that could go for 3 days. So I'm just condensing this, and I hope I don't offend anyone by doing this. Sanny Leviste is the founder of Aquaterra Institute, Asia Media Resource and La Vista Consulting, and he focuses on environmental education to train leaders, organizations, and communities in strategy, health, safety, and sustainability by developing integral Earth instincts. Can you see this is just working together so beautifully? I can't wait to hear from these people. Betsy Rosenberg is, she's going to make it all obvious for us. She is a broadcast journalist, and the first half of her career was with CBS Radio Network, and the last half, or the last parts at this point, she is in EcoBeat, and she will be doing all of this to be able to take this green show to air, and to be able to bring a lot of this to the forefront. So at this point, not knowing who came in or didn't come in, we have some, and I think only one I'm missing is Jennifer, and we are good. We are good. So we're going to start with the first question. I would like to continue to enter. I would like to find out how you got involved in your area of expertise and how does it help the community? Let's start with that. And let's start with Honorable Yvonne Gamble. Please, Yvonne.
Yes, thank you so much, Jackie. It's lovely to be here with Spirit of the Game. Thank you for all our listening and watching viewers. How I got involved and why is it important? What I'm going to actually share with you today is about water. And how I got involved in water, well, I was born and 97% of my body was filled with water. So that's how I got involved in water. And I realized early on that without it, it wasn't going to work. So this is one of the reasons why this is very near and dear. It's always the water. And as Jackie said so eloquently, yes, I do work with NASA. And one of the first things that we look for an inhabitable planet, or if we're going to go, is water. So water is integral to all of us. So I'll be talking to you more about that, but that's how I got involved.
Okay, and obviously it's going to help the community by doing that for sure. So, okay, Dr. Geetha, would you please introduce yourself and why it is that you got into your area?
Thank you so much, Jacqueline, and everyone. Hello to all, and good morning or good evening to all. And I am from Kerala, India, and I'm working as a director for World Alliance for Planetary Health and environmental director at Ocean Integrity. And I am very passionate about the environmental conservation and biodiversity conservation activities, and it's a type of projects, etc. And today I wish to talk about why we need to conserve our environment for a sustainable future. That was chosen because I think it is the most important subject. We know that today the world is undergoing some major issues like climate change and something like that, pollution issues, or plastic pollution. It's everywhere globally. Everything is destroying their environment, or environmental degradation is increasing day by day. So that I choose to just, I wish to bring your kind attention to this major topic to save environment for a sustainable future. Thank you.
Great. Obviously, the environment is the strongest part of all of this. Sanny Leviste, would you please join us?
I'm here. Oh. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good. Go for it.
Okay. My name is Sunny Devise. I've been a child of the water. Ever since I was born, I still am a child and I'm still in the water. And I I was so in love with the water that I made my first business involving water. As a child, I would go to the beach as often as I could, and I would collect. Hello.
And would the rest of you please mute unless you're going to be speaking?
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, and I would collect hermit crabs and sell or give them to my classmates as pets. And that's how I got started. And since then, I've been involved with everything water and everything environment. But I really, really love the islands. My dream has actually been to put up a school under a coconut tree. It's a simple school that can reach everyone that has a cell phone. And I've been telling my students this for the last 30 years, that if you have a cell phone, you have access to all the masters in the world. And all we need to do is get together anytime.
Wonderful. You're so beautiful. He's originally from the Philippines and does a lot of work in the Philippines. And so that's the country that he's from. How wonderful. Now, Betsy is going to tell us how we can all make this very obvious to the world, which is required to get us action. Thank you, Sandy.
Wow. Well, how did I get green? Very quickly. I was born with a green gene that manifested first in third grade. I didn't realize how strange I was when I had a visceral reaction to my classmates throwing away their lunches often, like the whole bag or lunch pail. We had lunch pails back then. And it's like the food was untouched. And that just like bothered me for some reason. Of course, at that young age, I didn't understand what it was, but that's why I think I was born with this. But then about a year later, I was in my neighborhood hanging out at our local creek, watching tadpoles turn into little bitty frogs about this time of year in the springtime. And I was fascinated. My girlfriend and I went down there every Sunday during the transition time for these frogs. And that was the first time I remember being in love with nature. Grew up in a walnut orchard, which eventually became filled with houses in what is now Silicon Valley, just to place it for you. And then it was latent for a couple of decades. And I was in news, CBS Radio, as you said, Jackie. And I started wanting to get environmental news on. And my news director said, literally, and this was back in like mid to late 90s. Well, Betsy, we did an environmental story last month. Last month, I said, but we do traffic and weather every 10 minutes. And sports and business news, every 20 minutes. Why is, our life support system not more important? So he didn't get it, like so many. If I had any idea how many news directors and programmers wouldn't get me, I would have quit right then. But no, I just realized I hated waste. So I pitched a trash talk feature. And he said, what do you mean? Like I said, reduce, reuse, recycle. He said, I give you 2, maybe 3 weeks worth of material. 10 years later, I retired Trash Talk and went from local minutes to national 1-hour interview shows, Eco Talk. It was on a former liberal network called Air America, which most people don't remember or have heard of, certainly not if you're not in the United States. But when I say Rachel Maddow, many of you remember her. She was on the same network. So was Robert Kennedy Jr. Some of them went on to fame and fortune in television. Well, certainly Rachel did, as she should. And because I was, on the green beat, that was just niched, like that's not something everybody's interested in, Betsy. So I spent the last 2 decades basically pitching and trying to pitch network news executives on a program with a focus on solutions. And you would have thought I was a Martian, green like it is in numbers, like they didn't get it and they still don't get it. And even though the news networks, my focus is broadcast journalism because that's where I, am from, but they're starting to talk about climate change in the last couple of years and even extinction and oceans, but bare minimum, just de minimis. And I think it's greenwashing because I don't know if they don't know what they don't know, that there's so much more deep, wide, every day to cover. or they do know and they're just covering it up and acting like they're covering it. They know what but anyway, you get it. They're not covering it nearly sufficiently enough. So after starting to write a book a couple years ago on this 2-decade journey of trying to bring green content and consciousness to mainstream broadcast news, about 2 years ago almost, someone named John Lake came along. He had been sitting on this great URL, greentv.com, for quite a while and wanted to create more content. So I'm a content creator looking for a platform. He had a platform looking for a content creator. So hopefully a good marriage was born. And since then, I've been doing interviews, Meet the Solutionaries on greentv.com, but we have plans to expand to 24/7. Why not? What's more important than this, as people are saying? So how do we do it? To me, it's just conversations about conservation. And there's no shortage of topics. There's no shortage of problems. There's no shortage of solutions, and there's no shortage of solutionaries. So my passion is interviewing the solutionaries. My series or program is Meet the Solutionaries, and all shades of green, not just one topic area, because it's all connected. We're all connected, and making those connections, connecting the dots, focusing on solutions and telling the whole truth, even when it's difficult to swallow. Those are the 3 tenets of our platform. So we're hoping to start live streaming. And if I could just give a plug, if you sign up for our YouTube channel at greentv.com, we can start doing that. We're a startup, so we're just at the very beginning, but we need to grow quickly for obvious reasons. And I think so the answer is talk about it, not just talk about it, then we got to act on it, but we can't act on what we don't understand. And we can't, the research shows that people now are kind of freaked out, which is appropriate, if a little bit late. They want to know what to do. Well, where are they going to get it? You know, the news business doesn't see it as their job to provide these solutions. Sure, you can join the Sierra Club or the NRDC in the States. They'll send out their newsletters, but you're already in the choir. You already get a lot of it. How do we reach beyond that? That's always been my target. But once we can bring people in who are curious or concerned or appropriately scared, then we bring what we do at Green TV is bring the experts directly to you, the public, and we hope and plan to have an interactive aspect to it. And last thing I'll say is I started this 26 years ago when my daughter was 2. She is recently married and now 3 months pregnant. So if I had reason to do this back then for everyone's children and grandchildren, I can't stop now, even if I wanted to, because it's very real about doing, when you do the math, it's like, oh my God, so delighted that I'm going to be a grandmother for the first time. She's my only, but dreading, you know, what this child is growing up into. So I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. Thank you for probably letting me say too much, but it's been 26 years covering the Green Beat.
How beautiful. Don't you see how all of this is going to work together? I mean, it is so perfect. We have the mouth, you know, let's face it. We have the vehicle to be able to bring this out. And you're right. Unless they have a constant awareness, you can't blame everyone for everything. It's an awareness. It's an understanding. It's an embracing of change individually. But unless they know what's happening and what they can do, as in a population of people, you know, you have to start with you. And I'm sure that you obviously believe that. I have to start with me. I am the change I wish to see in this world. Absolutely. So thank you, Betsy. That's wonderful. We'll be hearing a little bit more from you. So now my second question is, and we know pretty much the challenges, but the second one for Yvonne, Honorable Yvonne, what are the top 3 challenges that are facing your area of, well, you're not only water, but a large part of you is in this case. What are the top 3, and can you give us some possible solutions for those? Yvonne,
The top 3 areas that you're really having to deal with is number 1, it's almost a matter of time. Timing is one of the biggest challenges. And with timing, what I'm speaking in terms of the glaciers are melting. The polar ice caps are melting. And at the same time, you know, as Betsy mentioned, you basically are faced with a body of people who have their heads buried in the sand that this is actually taking place, that this is happening. Well, the water is rising, and we have several islands, five of the Solomon Islands, Kiribati, and a number more, have already gone underwater, and many other places are going underwater, and every place around the world is suffering from the movement of the tectonic plates. The tectonic plates, yes, they move naturally, but now with the glacier ice caps melting at the rate at which they are, this brings about a challenge. So you have the challenge of getting the information to the people, but it's not just simply putting information in front of them. It is the job that Betsy and those like her will have, is that challenge of actually getting people to think differently. That's one of the things that needs to be done. And that's one of the things that our Got Fresh Water campaign that my group, Simplified Knowledge Institute and Lifesavers Ambassadors International, we began working on this about 8 weeks ago with Dr. Cat, with Water Citizen, to look at how we actually put the campaign out there, into the public, so that people actually will, take hold of it and do that something that actually needs to be done to make not just simple. We don't need to make a difference. We need to make a change. And unfortunately, people do not make a change until they're actually standing on the precipice, staring down into the abyss. That's when they change. And we have to change that now, because we have to also think in terms of, we will be losing much of our land mass. Will be eroding, will be going back into the water. That won't be for another 100 years, but 100 years is a very short period of time. When you think of the fact that this is the year 2000 and 1900, many of your parents or grandparents were born in 1900. As a matter of fact, my stepfather was born in 1899, and now I'm living in the year 2023. So it's not unlike that someone has actually touched someone born a century ago. So 100 years is a very short blip on the screen in time. So time is one of the major challenges. And then the second major challenge is to basically be able to disrupt the thinking of the people, to get them to move, to change, to be able to protect the environment that we have. And, on further. And also the third challenge is going to be the actual change itself. Well, how are we going to adapt? What are we going to adapt to? As the oceans rise, it pushes into the freshwater tributaries. And so basically what you have is, of course, that ocean and salt water is much heavier than the freshwater. And so as that pushes in, things are going to change. Our bodies may even change and adapt. And now, again, that's over time. So we're fighting that time wheel. You're always fighting with the change. We do not, as human species, we don't change, we adapt. We don't change as quickly as the environment changes. And that's what we're going to start to see. And that is, I can definitely understand why Betsy and her team are very passionate to get this information out there, is simply because we can change, yes, and we have to, but we're really going to have to step it up. And we're going to have to ramp it up to lightning speed to make the necessary changes so that we can actually live on this water planet.
Beautiful, beautiful. So time was your first, your second was to disrupt the thinking. And the third is to actually have the change as well as to adapt to it. So those are wonderful things. And your water project is working in that area, right?
Yes, it is. And we are just now launching that project, that campaign. So we're going to pair that campaign, if you think of here in the Americas and probably actually worldwide, Got Milk. And so we're we have named our campaign Got Fresh Water, because that's going to become the commodity of that's the commodity of the future is, do you have fresh water that people are going to have? Because water, yes, we have ocean water, but we cannot just simply go and get a cup of ocean water. We're going to need a way to turn that ocean water into fresh water. And I don't want to get too far deep into the weeds of the science, but we cannot, it's not a one or the other. We have to have the ocean water. We have to have the salt that's in there, the evaporation of the salt into the atmosphere. That also helps us to maintain our body. So we can't take all the ocean water. So there are lots of things that are going to have to change, and you will see a lot of collaborations that will begin to come about as a result, of this, where we're going to start, having to work one with the other to figure out how we're going to do this. And we will also begin to see the changing face of man. And we might, in a 1,000-year period, we might begin to be a lot more reptilian than we are today.
Oh my, what a thought to end with. I love your favorite
Food for
lizard.
thought.
Okay,
Oh,
yes.
That's that futurist in me. It's
I know. She goes so far. I just go, huh? What? I love you. Okay, so that is those are the three problems and a solution that she's working on to be able to do that. Okay, Dr. Geetha, inspire us, please.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Can I share my slide here, presentation slide?
I think so. We'll have to hope the powers that be allow you to do it. Give it a try.
Disable the participant screen sharing that's showing here.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I can see. Yes, let's start now. Save environment for a sustainable future. I wish to talk about this topic today to inspire and bring attention to everyone to these important functions or action for the Earth's sustainable future. What is the importance of environmental protection? The key aim of environmental protection is to prevent the degradation of the natural environment, which is affected by increasing population, technology, and overconsumption, all of which have created a negative impact on the environment and continue to put humans and animals at risk. Benefits of environmental protection. What are the benefits? Wealth of services that are difficult to measure in dollars. That is, natural areas help clean our air, purify our water, produce food and medicines, reduce chemical and noise pollution, slow food floodwaters, to reduce the climate change impacts, to save biodiversity, to reduce biodiversity loss, to reduce or stop extinction of different species, cool our streets to reduce economic loss and famine situation, for well-being, quality, sustainable life of humans. And we call these or what's our ecosystem services. All these are important to make a sustainable future of Earth and its natural functions. What are the major environmental issues? Deforestation, desertification, rapid population growth, food production and equitable distribution, global warming and climate change, depletion of the atmospheric ozone, acid precipitation, ocean acidification, air pollution, and ocean pollution. And two major environmental issues among these are the climate change and the plastic pollution. And let us talk about the weather and climate related mortality and economic loss. It's some data or recent studies showed that weather and climate and water related hazards have caused millions of fatalities and have hindered development both socially and economically. As countries are becoming increasingly exposed to advanced socio-economic impacts, enhancing resiliency to such hazards becomes ever more important. Between 1970 and 2021, there were 11,778 reported disasters attributed to weather, climate, and water extremes. They caused 20,87,229 deaths and $4.3 trillion in economic losses. That the mortality from weather, climate, and water-related extremes has been decreasing over the last half of a century due to the implementation of a multi-hazard early warning system. But other impacts will also increasing day by day. The World Meteorological Organization has updated data in its Atlas of Mortality and Economic Losses from Weather, Climate, and Water-related hazards that now covered the period 1970 to 21. Okay, and climate change and marine ecosystem. Actually, the global sea level rising as a result of human or anthropogenic impacts in a higher rate. And some laboratory studies also suggest that changing ocean chemistry will harm life forms that rely on carbonate-based shells and skeletons of organisms living in water, and harm organisms sensitive to acidity, and harm organisms higher up the food chain that feed on these sensitive organisms. And one another important impacts is on coral fauna, that is coral ecosystems, that is coral bleaching. That is also one major issue in marine ecosystems. And ocean acidification can modify the abundance and chemical composition of harmful algal blooms in such a way that the shellfish toxicity increases and therefore human health is negatively affected. These are everything is happened nowadays. We know that the climate change and global warming is increasing, and also along with this, some marine dead zone formations are also increasing in the ocean. That is the desert like formation in ocean. That is not biodiversity cannot survive in such regions. In a plastic pollution also a major issue, in that estimated 1.13 to 2.24 million metric tons of that waste is leaked into the oceans and the environment every year, and 100 million marine animals die each year, and 1 in 3 marine mammal species get found entangled in litter. By 2050, the pollution of fish will be outnumbered by our dumped plastic. So that 300 million tons of plastic gets created yearly by humans, and this way the same as the entire human population, and 50% is single use only. And
Okay, Dr. Geetha, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have
Yeah.
2 other speakers that need to speak, and you have a project that you're working with the islands.
Yeah.
Could you
Yeah.
just say maybe 1 sentence on that project? We know that there are issues. If you could
Yeah.
just tell us what you're doing in action, please.
Yes. Based on these issues, I am joined with some projects, and we are doing the mitigation against such problems on the earth now. I am working with the World Alliance for Planetary Health to solve this issue of marine dead zones formation in ocean. Actually, that is formed by the higher amount of or higher concentration of nitrogen and phosphorus from land, farmlands, and it will leach into the ocean. And that is the major factors behind such formation in a marine ecosystem. And in another project is also, I am working with Ocean Integrity. We are trying to solve the plastic pollution issues in many places or in many countries around the globe now. And we are waiting to open one branch in India also. We are trying to solve these issues, and also we are community development projects also included in this type of plastic pollution projects, because we are doing such projects with the fishermen community also, and we are helping that people to their sustainable economic development also. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you so much, Dr. Geetha. I appreciate it. I can see that you have a lot of passion in this and that you're doing a lot to make a change. Sani, would you enlighten us about your project, please? Go ahead and unmute yourself so that you can do that, please.
Sorry about that. I used to work with the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries in the Philippines, and what we did was to organize all the agriculture and fishery councils nationwide. It's pretty hard because we've got 7,000 islands, more than 7,000 islands. But I was talking to my former boss just two years ago, before my operation, 3 years ago, and he said, you know, that project we started, setting up the local agriculture and fishery councils on the regional, municipal, and on the village level, is the only one that's still working in the government for now, and it's been running now for 25 plus years. So that's a direct contribution. I've spent I talk about earth and instinct a lot because those are two subjects that I set up along with the setting up of the first Master in Management Technology program in the country. And that one has stopped me from completing my doctorate studies, but I did produce over 600 from that project, 600 masters from that project, all of them who took up the subject Earth, the ecology of aquatic resources and terrestrial habitats, and also produced, I think as of now, 10 doctors. So
wonderful.
we
Great
continue
start.
to do that, and the dream continues to have that school under the coconut tree. And I'm now doing it by teaching kids here in the U.S. for the last 10 years.
That's where it starts. Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful, Sandy. Thank you so much for contributing. That's delightful. Now, Betsy, we know how you're going to get it out there. Give us just a little bit more clarity on how you're going to do that.
Well, again, if you go to greentv.com, it'll look like, I've done 150 interviews in the last year and a half, but that's nothing compared to what we want to do. I think the key is just think about CNN, even if you're international. And they cover, CNN International strangely covers so much more environmental news. Every time we travel abroad, it's like, is this the same network I've been pitching and getting blank stares? Like, what is it about Europeans? Yeah, it's probably because Americans, stupidly are not, pardon me, I'm very frank, you'll get used to it. Are like have an aversion to this environmental news. And that's another story, but it needs to be like CNN, but a GNN, a Green News Network, where any time of the day or night you can tune in and hear these conversations. I've always felt that these conversations from experts like yourselves, and there's no shortage of them, should be heard by the wider public. I've been going to, probably 10 conferences a year for 25 years. That's 250, not very green, but, I try to offset that with the educating, hopefully. And that's key. Like, if we don't go outside the silos, it's just never going to happen. And it's just how it's happening too slowly. So that's my contribution, is being able to find the best. I'm an expert in the experts, not an expert in any particular environmental area, although I'm obsessed with climate change and started a campaign 20 years ago, Don't Be Fueled, Mothers for Clean and Safe Vehicles, energy use. But again, it all comes back to waste. That's my entry level drug. I always hate waste of all kinds: food, energy, water, paper, you name it. So time, and we're losing critical time. So we want to have a platform where these conversations can take place night and day.
Yeah.
And we were first focused on the US, and we're going to do live talk shows on, with various subject matter specialties. Like, we have someone lined up who has written 2 fabulous books, Julie Burwald. I highly recommend them. The first one was on jellyfish, called Spineless. And the last one's on, most recent one is on coral, called Between a Rock and a Hard Place. And you go to Green TV and just put her name in, Juli Burwald, Berwald. She was one of the most animated guests I've ever had. And she talks with her hands, which is why I want to do TV, not radio anymore. And she talks about the sex lives of, jellyfish and coral. And not be more excited. Like, it's the first time she's told this story. So she's gotten a lot of awards for her book. She's traveling a lot. She has agreed to do a show on For the Love of Oceans once we can expand our programming. We have one of our team members wants to do green business. We've got a clean tech guy. We've got a climate lawyer, and all these people. Just I'm mentioning those as examples of the subject specialty hosts that would bring in their own guests, bring in their own sponsors. And that's our way to grow sustainably, so that any hour of the day you can hear live people talking about the most important issues and news on the planet right now, where you can't get that anyplace else. And even if and when we make it to 24/7, it will still not be enough. So the overnight shift, if you will, was going to be documentaries, all these green themed, films that are fabulous, like Chasing Coral, Chasing Ice. There's no shortage of them, but they mostly, take a lot of money and time to make, and then they sit on the shelf or are seen by the choir again. We would run those all night, but then it was pointed out that, well, nighttime in the USA is, not night, it's daytime in Australia, whatever. So yeah, I mean, we can have, I think, Trent, who the always ambitious, even more than me, Trent. So well, you could just have 2 a.m, Africa speaking, and news from other continents at different times. So yeah, it's all possible because it's the World Wide Web. So we can grow exponentially. No one can limit us in time, which is a big problem for the networks. And nobody can limit us in terms of inspiration, because our team has got it in spades. And it can go anywhere and go as long as we need to. And I don't foresee us being irrelevant in my lifetime, to put it mildly.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So if you've been paying attention to what's been happening and who you've been listening to, we have obviously the problems, we have obviously the solutions. Now, I want each one of you to think about your influence. I want you to think about your expertise, about the areas that you're passionate about, and to think of the people that who are in the areas of possibly making more of an impact in the change arena for environment, that might add to the cause, add to the actual projects or actions that these people are doing. They're doing very dramatic actions. All of them have wonderful projects. So be sure that your information's in the chat. This is a session, although several of you are not on the screen, of listening to what you can do as an individual, as your part in this world, to make it sustainable for those that are still here and are coming. So please pay attention to these speakers and connect with them with a Zoom or however, to be able to literally make that change by awareness and understanding. It's really important that you pay attention. And Spirit of the Game is an integral part of all of that, because we want to bring all of you together. We want to have you have your voice. We want to provide those vehicles, those whatever that you need to get that voice out. It's a team effort, and it's together we can be accountable and to create the action that you want in this world. Now, we don't have really much time for any questions. However, please take the information from these speakers. At the end of this day, which is 11 o'clock Pacific time, we will have a networking part where you can talk like crazy, hopefully, to as many of our speakers up to that point that we will have. So I am so proud and excited that these people have come together and that you've been able to put your 2 cents by being able to get their contact information and furthering what can be done in the area of climate and environment sustainability. Thank you all very much.